it's clearly a very fluid situation, as you know. But what, sir, is your latest information?
Well, it's a little bit more of yesterday. Yesterday was rough, and probably tomorrow is going to be very bad. And it's a terrible thing. People are starving. People are dying. There's no food. There's no water. It's just a terrible situation. You see what's going on, and we're doing everything we can do, short of the ultimate. There are people that would like to have us do the ultimate, but we have a lot of options open. But when we look at what's going on there, it's an incredible mess.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know you've said this before, and you say that all options are on the table. I know there was a big NSC meeting today, and you get all your top people trying to go through various scenarios, trying to figure out what to do next. Really, what are our options right now, Mr. President?
Well, some of them I don't even like to mention to you because they're pretty tough. But we see what's happening with respect to the hunger. You don't see things like this anymore. And they don't want food. Maduro won't accept food. I think he should, frankly. I think it would be better for him if he did, because you have people that are starving and they become desperate, and you see what's happening on the streets. And the streets are very dangerous, and it's very dangerous for, frankly, everybody. And we haven't seen a scene like this in many, many years. And when you think how wealthy this country was, Trish, this country was one of the wealthy countries, not just there, but this was one of the wealthy countries of the world. And now you look at what's going on, where they don't even have food, where they can't get water. The water is filthy dirty. And people are getting sick. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
No, look, it's a tragedy, and it's a tragedy that's so close to home, less than 4 hours from Miami. What do you think about Nicolas Maduro?
Well, he's certainly run it tough, but I think he's losing a lot of control. He really did go out and do things that are bad. It's an extension of his previous, and previous was bad. It was unacceptable. It was horrible and unacceptable. It's really a failure of socialism, and I don't know, maybe this is beyond socialism, but this is socialism, and you see what happens. Now they're talking about it for our country. I can't believe it's real, when you hear some of the things being said, but they're talking about socialism for our country. That's not going to happen, especially with how well we're doing. But and Maduro he's a tough player, and it's awfully tough to play closer when nobody has food. And
he's still there. He's still there. Despite the fact that they have no food, they have no water, and they're marching in the streets. Secretary Pompeo told me, sir, yesterday that Maduro was ready to leave. He was packed up, ready to go on the tarmac, but the Russians stopped him. What does that say? What are the Russians doing down there, and how does that change things for us, or escalate, if you would, unfortunately,
well, it's not
things
acceptable.
For us?
If that's the case, it's not acceptable. You hear a lot of different rumors. You hear rumors that he was. You hear rumors that he was leaving a different way. I'm hearing rumors about Russia, and I'm hearing a lot about Cuba. And we'll do a very, very strong embargo and sanction on Cuba. It depends on what's going to happen. They have a lot at stake too, because it's not like they're exactly boomtown. I used to say boomtown USA, but they're awfully close to the USA.
That's not going to work.
And somehow I'm thinking to myself, I better not say that. But they're not a boomtown, that's for sure. They're not doing well, and with the right moves, Cuba could do very well. We could open it up, but we're going to end up closing it up if they don't get out of Venezuela. So we're trying to help people. We want to deliver food and medical. There's no medical. You have children that are unbelievably sick. There's no medical. They have doctors without medicine. And it's great people. The Venezuelan people, I know a lot of people from Venezuela. They're incredible people. They work so hard, and it just went, they had the wrong form of government. They had the wrong two people. And Maduro's just been not doing the job. not doing the job.
Ain't that the truth? I remember back before Chavez, when Venezuela had a much more prosperous future ahead of itself, and now you look at the last 20 years and how that is disintegrated. Let me ask you about Juan Guaido, who's actually coming up a little bit later on the show tonight, Mr. President. He will be here, and look, you mentioned the Venezuelan people and how much you like them. This is a gentleman who's clearly very, very brave and is a walking target, frankly, because Nicolas Maduro doesn't like anybody who is a threat to him. So what happens if they do something, if they were to jail or they were to execute, God forbid, Juan Guaido, the man we recognize as the president of that nation?
Well, I hope it doesn't happen. I've been watching him on the streets and right on the streets where people are being killed, and he's out there doing rallies. He's actually very brave in a true sense. But I've been watching him and watching the moves, and there's a lot of spirit for him, and it is from a constitutional standpoint is the way it's supposed to be. He was elected. They should be running it now. At least we could go in and help them a little bit with, and maybe a lot, depending on what. I mean, the advantage they have is they have oil. It's mortgaged out to the hilt between China and Russia and all the money that's been poured in there over the years. They just sucked money out of everybody in order to get, it's a terrible situation. It's like an incredible thing because they have mortgaged their oil almost to the maximum, but we'll see what happens there. You wonder what happens to, that's called Foreclosureville, USA, I guess. But China's in, and
except
Russia's
not USA, but China's there, Russia's there, and Cuba as well.
When you think about it, though, what they have, what has to be done, you really do. Essentially, it's called a country foreclosure. The place is so bad and so dangerous, and all the wealth, but the wealth is all mortgaged out. But so something's going to have to be done even there, because the amount of money that's loaned for that oil, the loans for that oil, they don't give them any breathing room. So it's not what people think.
Okay, so you bring up something, though, that your critics are going to say. By the way, they're already saying this. I mean, so you have the Ilhan Omars of the world right now that are saying, oh, this is just about oil. The only reason the United States of America cares about Venezuela is because they have such a massive oil supply. What do you say to that?
Well, it's wrong, and it's what it is it's a humanitarian thing. When you look at what's happening, we would really like to see a successful country. We liked it the way it was before this group got in there, and the predecessor, I guess they say, was worse. I'm not sure. I think maybe Maduro was worse.
Chavez was pretty bad. I don't know. You can flip a coin.
He started. I was asking somebody the other day with a great knowledge of Venezuela who was worse. And frankly, but Chavez started the process, and now it's really been just wiped out. The whole thing is wiped out.
People have no rights, for sure. And don't forget, I mean, they had high oil prices back then.
Right. And I knew Venezuela. I understood Venezuela. And a lot of great Venezuelan people living in Miami. And this should not be happening. So we'll see what happens. I think
let me ask you.
A lot of things will be going on over the next week, and maybe sooner than that. We'll see what happens.
All right. You mentioned Cuba in there, which brings me amazingly to infrastructure, because I remember the vice president telling me way back in October that he had some concerns about Venezuela and Cuba actually funding some of these caravan groups that are coming up to our border. So that brings us back to a subject very near and dear to your heart, which is the wall. I know that you met with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer recently, and there's talk of a $2 trillion infrastructure plan, which is just enormous. Is any of that money, Mr. President, for the wall?
Well, we're not going to need it because we have it from other sources. We're building the wall. And by next year, the end of next year, we will have probably around 400 miles of wall up. We're building a lot of it now. We've given out a lot of contracts. We have a lot of contracts that have been let, and we're building a lot of wall. And unfortunately, it's a massive area that we have, what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, 400 miles is not going to do it.
No, but it's going to do a lot of it because we're adding that onto some of the things that we've already renovated. And, we've actually done a lot of work, and we're doing it. It would have been a lot easier if we had the money. Originally people were talking about 25 billion. You don't have to spend that much. It's not nearly that much. We've cut it down. I've actually gotten a better wall for much less money, and we're getting great speed out of it too. But we have it